When it comes to carp fishing competitions, one event stands out above all others as being the cream of the crop. Which one? Well, of course, it's the British Carp Angling Championships, the official title that the majority of competition carp anglers would love to win. This year there's been more competitors than ever, and there's been a change in the final venue. Where are we? Wraysbury North Lake, and this place is absolutely steeped in carp fishing history. It's the first time the BCAC has headed down here, and you know what? In another 48 or so hours, somebody is going to be putting their name in the history books as the new British champion. So Neil, Chris, this is it, big day. Neil, what's the plan?
Good draw, be good. Yeah, fingers crossed for a good draw. Well, so it'll be a long time coming for this. First time, so yeah, good draw. And then fingers crossed we get some fish.
You've got a serious game face on, Chris. You've been down and practiced here before.
Yes, yeah, I came down a few weeks ago just to have a little go. We were allowed one weekend, so came down for the weekend, had a few fish, tried a few things, tried a few different methods, a few different baits. Managed to catch on them all, so none the wiser really. But yeah, it was good. It was nice to come down and have a little look, especially being at Wraysbury. So hopefully we'll get a good draw, get a good peg and be able to bang a few out.
Well, Harry, another big day for you. You've had a great year so far. Is it going to be a double today?
I'd like to think so, but you know, it's a great field, and I don't know the lake at all. I mean, most people don't know the lake, but yeah, it'll be a bit of a lottery, I think. But I'll give it my best shot anyway.
Here we are, final day. Jake, have you been down and practiced?
Yeah, we came down the first practice. We had a few fish, so it was quite good actually. But just a pleasure to be able to fish Wraysbury. Well, looking forward to it.
This is the British Champs. This is the sort of one that everyone wants to win that title, the British Champs. That's what it's all about, really. That's why I started match fishing, to win this competition.
Best luck, lads.
So here is Jamie Gold, the head bailiff down here at RK Leisure for Wraysbury 1, pulling the first name.
Paul Gordon and Vernon Curl.
Paul Gordon, Vernon Curl. This is a watercraft draw, of course, which means that when they come forward, they can take their pick as to where they want to fish on the lake. And they've opted for peg number 3. A lot of draws are straightforward out of the bag, which means that you get told where you're fishing, whereas this is a case of names coming out.
Number 13.
Begley and Brooks there, opting for peg number 13. 13, permanent swim 18 on this lake, on the Welly Road stretch. Very popular in previous competitions. And very interesting now to see these names coming out. There's going to be names within this crowd that people are concerned about. There's going to be names that people don't know. And that's one of the benefits of the British Carp Angling Championships. That was peg number 6, swim known as the Lawns, fishing to the back of the Cigar Island. Very, very famous area of this very, very famous Wraysbury North Lake. Rivers and Holmes.
Number 7.
Peg number 7. That is next door to the Ghost Barge. It's an area that's got quite a few fish in it. It's actually the area that Chris Holmes practiced in and caught quite a few fish out of, so they will be very, very happy with that draw. As the draw continued and a long line of teams were pulled out of the bag, more and more of the better pegs were being taken. Hot favourite Harry Charrington, fishing on his own as he has all the way through the tournament, was starting to look a little concerned, and rightly so as well, as he ended up second to last out of the bag. Harry, not a magnificent draw, but you're still smiling.
Yeah, I think it's fairly inevitable that I was going to come out that low down. But it's not the end of the world. Second last out, I think it was my 12th choice. So it's better than it being my second last choice, I guess. And there are fish there, so.
Chaps, we spoke to you just before the draw. You're now in situ, and that was first choice.
It was, yeah. Yeah, we were happy with that. But there was a lot of fish down here when we walked round. They like to sit down by the Ghost Barge. This is also the peg that we practiced in. So we knew the spots already. We knew there was fish here. So, you know, we can turn up. We're not going to thrash it up with a marker float or anything like that. Don't want to spook the fish away. I know that there's a spot just under my willow tree to the left. I also know there's a sandbar out at 52 yards. So we know we can pretty much one flick with the lead make sure the sandbar's there, make sure there's none of the candy floss weed that's knocking about on the top, and then we can fish straight away, and that way we're not going to hopefully spook the fish out of the swim.
Okay, there's a reasonable pile of weed at your feet there. Have you found anything nice out there?
Jack's found a little spot. It's a little bit further out. We didn't really want to have to go out there because you've obviously got to bring fish back through it, so we're hoping to get one a little bit closer in, but we got a clear spot, you know, which is a bonus. You know, we can present a bait over it, so it's a starting point.
Is that going to have all the rods, or are you going to fish up on the weed?
I think we're going to chuck a couple on the weed. I'm going to go for sort of like that chob rig approach, as much as I like. It's not my style, but you know, we're just going to sort of leave our options open early in the match and just sort of, you know, see where it goes from there, really.
There's quite a few fish out in front of us, so just sort of.
You've seen a few bubbling?
Yeah, there's not just a few, there's lots. So, and there's been fish rolling down the corner, so we just got to do what we've got to do, mate, haven't we?
Yeah.
And here we are, the start of tournament 2014 down here, a historic day down at Wraysbury, West London, just outside Heathrow. You'll probably hear the odd plane through the course of the programme. We're just on the flight path, depending on which way the wind is blowing. The planes are either coming in or out. And on the subject of going out, that is it. Look, a little underarm flick for Chris, and he's got a spot sorted just under the tree. Neil there, a bit more of a cast, overarm flick out to 52 yards, and a spot that he's found, which is a clean sandy area just by the side of some weed. And that's it for the boys up in peg 7. They're ready to rock and roll. The rest is up to the carp. Well, here we are, a little over 25 minutes on the clock, and as expected, it is peg 7, Rivers and Holmes, where the first bite of the competition is. It's on the longest spot, the clear sandy area, but looking at the rod tip at the moment, it looks like there's a little bit of weed. He's keeping steady pressure on. This is one of the things when you have got a fish in weed. If you can keep that fish moving and keep that pressure on, there's a chance that it will come up in the water and come out of the weed. You'll see it's a pairs competition, 48 hours in total, 4 rods between the pair. They can fish 2 each, they can fish 3 on one, 1 on the other, or one can have 4 and the other can watch. But these guys are fishing 2 and 2. Chris there just taking care of the other rod. He's going underneath. And there's also the risk now that that rod may tangle up with the other one that's fishing, which will knock it out of the equation. He doesn't want to do that at all, and there's a little bit of confusion on at the moment now as to whether or not there's anything in there. As we look at the weed, we can't see any movement of anything. That doesn't mean to say that the fish isn't on there. Got to check now. That fish may well be in there somewhere. Oh yes, there it is, look, there it is. And the question is it in the net or is it in the back of the weed? This is what Chris has got to check now. He's not taking any chances at all. There's something definitely in there. The line's going into the landing net. The line from the other rod is going into the landing net. There's a big pile of weed in there, and we hope that there is a good fish. So the fish goes into that sling, as it's known, and the fish will now just be popped onto the scales themselves and the weight recorded. And let's have a little look at this. 11 pounds 6 ounces. Chris checks that and confirms it. 11 pounds 6 ounces is the weight of that fish. Neil, 1 on the score sheet. That's got to be useful.
Yes, it was, mate. Bit nerve-wracking to start with, obviously, because it had a lot of weed around it. But yeah, we got it in teamwork as normal. Bonio on the net. So yeah, we're just getting another rod ready. So just a bit of preparation really, because last time we didn't have another one ready, and the rod was out the water quite a bit. So we're just trying to just get stuff done, mate, really.
Well, the news of a capture is always exciting in the British Carp Angling Championships, but particularly exciting now for Peg 17. Phil Sainty, Adam Snowden, they've travelled a long way down here to Middlesex, all the way from Yorkshire, and this is their prize so far. An absolutely stunning carp there. You would be happy with that any day of the week, let alone in the finals of the British Carp Angling Championships. Guys watching this at home, just take a look at that for a creature. That is a stunner. If this wasn't a competition, to be fair, the weight is irrelevant on that creature. However, we do need a weight now. and we see that it is just under 27 pounds. Dave Watson, the master scalesman, ably assisted by Nick there. Very experienced marshals in this tournament. They're going to be checking that everything is done correctly. £26 11 ounces is the call. That is an absolute corker, and that puts these two primely in pole position.
I like taking part. It's not all about the winning, but winning's a nice bit, I suppose. But no, it really means something this year, wasn't it, for us?
It's just the title as well.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's a title piece here.
Such a prestigious thing. It's been going for, I think, 16 years now. I've followed it since I was a little kid, and I think we've fished it about 6 or 7 years now, haven't we? And it'd just be absolutely awesome, Rob. And that's a great rate to start.
Peg 13 now, and a bit of a problem going on with a bit of weed. The margins are very clear, but just out in front there's a reasonable amount of weed, and rather than pull for a break, we've got the boat out, just retrieving a rig. We don't think there's a fish on. And of course, all the way through the competition, one of the most important things, A, is getting a result, but B, is the safety of the fish. That doesn't just mean when a fish is hooked, it means that you don't want to leave live rigs in the water that another one could come and pick up on. So rather than leave litter around about the lake bed, the best thing to do is just get it out with the boat, which is exactly what is happening here. After an initial flurry of activity, the Wraysbury fish realised that their peaceful day was being disturbed, and they decided not to play ball. The anglers, being experts in their craft, had other ideas, and skills were honed, tactics were discussed, and the traps were prepped and set in readiness for the anticipated evening feed. All of the latest gadgets and widgets were wheeled out to fool the wary carp, and the anglers themselves stocked up on their fuel reserves. Well, there we go. The proceedings from day one at Wraysbury are now coming to a conclusion. It's just about to get dark. And to look at the course of events, we've got a former champion, Mr. Ian Poole. Now, Poole, air pressure and pressure on the water, that's had a big effect today.
Yeah, definitely. I think, typical scenario, a couple of 3 quick chances, and the fish have realised what's going on. It's gone quiet. I don't expect it to last for long, though.
No, they're not going to have seen this many lines in the water. Remember, it's a fairly new lake as far as the stocking is concerned. They've never seen 38 blokes turn up and cast out that many lines, have they?
No, definitely. I think that's why it's gone quiet this afternoon. But I'm expecting some action tonight. I don't think anybody's going to run away with it. I think the action will be quite sporadic around the lake. Little feeding spells where there might be 2 or 3 bites, go quiet, and then the same. I'm sure some fish will be out in the early morning as well.
Absolutely, early morning is going to be the key for me. Late hours of darkness, early morning. But let's look at where they've come from. 3 very, very different areas of the pond.
Yeah. Quick fish for Bonesy and
Rivers.
Yeah, and then cracking fish for Snowden and
that was a
Phil
stunner.
Sainty.
Yeah,
absolute cracking, fully scaled.
I mean, let's look at those fish. They are absolute pearlers, aren't they, in this lake as well?
Yeah.
Very clear water, very dark fish, and they just look stunning.
Yeah, that one did especially. Even the small ones, they looked at, even that 11-pounder.
Yeah.
Cool, would I like to have caught that.
Absolutely. Well, there we go. That's it for today. We do now have a result. Of course, first, second and third we need for the podium. We've got it. What's going to happen overnight? Well, that's down to the fish and, of course, the anglers. As the sun set over Wraysbury, the anglers were expecting a night of activity. Northern boys Phil Sainty and Adam Snowden led the field with that stunning 26.11 fully scaled. G and Hayward held second on 16.05, just ahead of Rivers and Holmes on 11.06. With the trap set, there were some good fish being caught through the hours of darkness, but one man in particular had a massive grin on his face, having landed one of the Wraysbury whackers, this stunning common carp of 32 pounds. Classed as one of the originals, Harry Charrington also banked another carp to emerge at dawn as the new race leader, but the margin was tighter than you can possibly imagine.
can't really believe it. I don't know. I don't think I expected to catch during the night. I thought I might get a chance early morning. But yeah, 2 fish, they were within about 5-10 minutes of each other as well. So yeah, a bit of a bonus.
That's a pattern that we've seen actually develop a couple of times around the lake. There's a few other people caught more than one fish, and we're seeing fish coming in close succession. Interestingly, not in the same sort of spot though, some close, some far out.
Yeah, it's just, one of those things with fishing. Sometimes there's just a small window of opportunity, and the fish just seem to, whatever reason, turn on, and whether that be on the same spot or on completely different spots. I couldn't tell you why.
It pays to spread bet, doesn't it then, if that's the case?
I've very much sort of hedged my bets. I think not sort of knowing the water, you don't know what spots work, whether you want to fish in the weed, on clear areas. So I've definitely hedged my bets. I've got rods fishing in weed, I've got rods on nice clear areas. I've baited up with boilies on some, baited up with pellets on others. So yeah, tried to sort of hedge my bets and see what works.
Brilliant. Well, plenty of time left. It's looking quite carpy today. What's the game plan?
To be honest, just sit back and kind of try. Like, I've got a quiet corner here and I want to keep it that way. I don't want to sort of thrash about too much. I've found spots now that I'm happy with. Like, 2 of them have produced fish. The other 2 I'm happy with as well. So I think I'm just going to sit back and try and just let the carp drift in if they can. There aren't many here at the moment. But yeah, if they drift in, I know that I've got rods on spots that will do me bites, and yeah, hopefully they will at some point today.
James Begley and Andy Brooks now, peg 13, Saturday morning, just got light and into the first fish of the day. Light hours on Saturday. It's been stuck in the weed, but it's now out and will count in these proceedings. And there's been quite a few fish showing just out in front of them, a lot of smaller carp, long way out towards the island, and we've been watching from the side as these guys have been spomming over, putting a bit of bait out. And we can just see the fish on the surface there, small amount of weed over the front of its face. Looks like one of the double-figured stockfish, nice looking creature. Very clear water down here, and these guys will be very anxious to get a fish on the bank now. They had a bit of an occurrence yesterday. Fish down deep in the water. But there it is, ready with the net now, guys. And then it is, there we go.
Woohoo! Come on.
Happy days, little punch of approval to each other there. And that puts peg 13 on the score sheet. And now the fish will be brought up from the lakeside, kept out of the water for as minimal a time as possible, and brought up for the weighing procedure. It looked like it was a double when it was in the water, but the water is very clear down there, and that is a great looking fish. And here we have it, the moment of truth. It looks like it's going to be over 20 pounds by a reasonable way. It is. It's between 22.5 and 23. He might even smile. 22 pounds, 12 ounces there. 22 pounds, 12 ounces. So James, off the mark now. Decent fish as well. Got to be happy with that one.
Yeah, very happy. Weeded me up originally, about 80 yards. Had to get the boat out, and yeah, eventually got it in. It weeded me up just down here to the right, and yeah, luckily we got it in the net. Nice fish to get on the scoreboard.
Chris, mixed emotions there. You've just unfortunately lost one, but at the same time you had a good night last night.
We did, yeah. We landed a couple of fish through the night, 18 and a 17, which put us back up there again. We took almost a double take really, Rob. It was strange how people talk about feeding times. I had one on the close margin rod. Neil had one from distance. We landed both of those. 10 minutes later it's whipped off again. Unfortunately lost that fish as well. Fishing in weed, isn't it? You know, you got to try and, we're dropping the leads to bring them straight up to the surface, and you're trying to keep them away from the weed beds, and new fish, soft mouths, they unfortunately hook pull.
Second place by just 1 ounce at the moment, and it's a real emotional roller coaster ride, this match fishing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah, especially when it's 1 ounce. It's very close. I mean, Harry's doing very well down there on his own. He's an awesome angler, and for him to be, I'm glad to be up there with him, to be honest with him, to be classed in the same category. But yeah, 1 ounce, it's a real kick in the teeth, especially if it finished in that way.
It's on its way.
Gary, just talk us through what's happening at the moment.
Well, we've had a take at distance and fishing really tight, just behind a weed bed, playing it in, and it's unfortunately, obviously, just gone in. Felt it shake a couple of times, so we've asked for the assistance of the boat because we felt it on the end, but wasn't to be.
Oh dear.
Always the next one. They're out there, they've been showing. We've got quite a lot of bait out there now, so we're hopeful for another one, to be honest. There's fish out there.
Well, we're going to leave these boys to their disappointment and have a look at the boat now, which is heading over to peg 13, where we believe another fish has been hooked, but is unfortunately caught in some weeds. So we'll trip up there and find out what's happening. Okay. Well, James Begley and Andy Brooks again, peg 13 now. Once again, unfortunately, the fish caught in weed. They had this occurrence earlier on this morning where a fish in that same area got caught in some weed. It was freed and it was retrieved. It counted on their scores. This one at the moment is still in the weed, so it's anxious moments as we look on and hope that the marshals in the boat can retrieve the fish from the weed. Obviously, every single fish is very, very important here. It's quite tight now in this competition. There's a fair crosswind blowing at the moment, which will hinder proceedings here. That will have a bit of an effect, putting a bow in the line. And I've just seen an indication from the boat there where he's drawn his line across his neck, saying that no, it's gone, there's nothing on. And there we see Andy reeling in, unfortunately. It's going to be a case of no score with this one. Well, we're at the halfway stage now, and it's been a very interesting first half, hasn't it? Ian, bit of action through the night last night.
Yeah.
And then today, it's been more a case of lost fish.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it all slow to start with last night. Kicked off about 2 o'clock with Harry's fantastic common. I was glad I got up to see that.
Yeah.
Then a little flurry of smaller fish that's got a lot of people into the action as well. But then today it's been 4 bites, and unfortunately the weed has
claimed almost
claimed
all of them.
Yeah.
We've seen one fish landed today, which was Begley and Brooks.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the boat's been called out quite a lot. Now, it's a weedy venue, that much is known. What can these guys do to combat this weed?
I think fish at sensible range is one of the sort of main things, really. The further out you are fishing over weed, the harder it's going to be to get them in. You've got sort of hook a fish at 100, 120 yards. You haven't got a lot of control over it, to be honest. It sort of rules the roost until you get it in closer.
Yeah.
Obviously, dropping the lead is important, but I think today, I've got a feeling perhaps the fish are a bit nervous with the extra pressure, and I think that's probably sort of a big reason why 4 have been lost. Maybe just poorer hook holds, like, to be honest, in the weed.
Yeah.
When another day, I think probably all 4 would have come out.
Let's look at this man that's in the lead at the moment, Harry CHARRINGTON. Now, he's in the lead, he's only by an ounce. It's a very, very close margin, but he's on his own. Just what an angler. He's done very, very well so far this year. Brilliant performance.
I think the thing with Harry, he doesn't overcomplicate it. All the top anglers, you look at how they fish, they'll keep it really simple. I think, it's easy with fishing to overthink things. You think too much about things.
Yeah.
And I think Harry sees carp, fishes for him, keeps everything simple, and gets the results.
Clearly, absolutely, he's doing very, very well with it. Rivers and Bonesy up in the top corner. I'm still fancying them. I really am still fancying them, just because that seems to be the most productive area of the pond.
Yeah, and what's nice for them as well, they're sort of sticking to their guns, fishing close in, not going, fishing where they know the fish come from. I think it's easy when you've got a lot of water in front of you to give it the big one and put a rod at 100 yards just because you can.
Yes.
And on these gravel pits, the fish absolutely love the margins.
Elsewhere could be anybody's game, really. There's fish coming from that bank, there's fish coming from this bank. The wind is now doing more or less opposite what it was doing yesterday. It's blowing down, and your mate Gary and his partner Gary down here in peg 18, they're doing pretty well at the moment. They've had 3 bites this morning.
Yeah, Gary Hodges, Gary Baldwin, really good anglers from the Lee Valley. I know Gary Hodges pretty well, fishes us in there, come on. Sort of good, successful match angler as well as carp angler. I'm sure that helps. They've had 3 bites since 4 o'clock this morning.
Anyway, that's the roundup of what's gone on so far. We've got a little under 24 hours to go. Tonight is obviously going to be crucial, but at the moment all eyes are on the afternoon proceedings. Peg 1, the man in the lead, Harry Charrington. Afternoon session now, and as we're stood with him, he's just had a couple of bleeps on his left hand rod set, right hand rod. 2 fish already, but 1 lost earlier. And there's a big ball of weed, and just on the left hand side of that ball of weed a tail came up. He's in the water, he's allowed to wade out. He'll just go to the front of that, and this is going to be quite tricky. That's a big ball of weed. It's a massive ball of weed for one man to get into a landing net, but there's a fish in it, and that fish is crucial because at the moment, whilst he's at the top of the pile, he's 1 ounce ahead of the chasing team, Neil Rivers and Chris Holmes. I've just heard Harry say there he thinks it just came off. We're not sure, we can't see yet. There's a big ball of weed coming in. And if it has just come off, that would be tragic because it came a reasonable way in and it doesn't look like there's anything in there. That is a great shame. He's going to try and net everything in. Is there any movement? Let's look for movement. Doesn't care about the rod, it's going in the water. And there certainly doesn't look to be anything in the landing net. The big question is there anything anywhere else? Is the line going through and out? There certainly doesn't look to be a fish there. It's gone. That is terribly bad luck. When we see a fish in the net and you've got one, you were 1 ounce behind, there's one down there. How big do we reckon it is?
It's borderline, Rob. You obviously know that the limit's £5. I'm really hoping it's £5. Really hoping. You know that spot, we've had this little margin spot going for a while now. We had a bit of fizzing, we had a lot of liners, and when I brought it back in, the bait was off my rig. Right. So I presume maybe crayfish. So a quick text message to one of the RK boys. He said not that he knew of was the only crayfish in here. So we retied the bag back out, kept getting these just little taps, and then it was away. And finally we were into a fish. But
so there's some small fish feeding under the tree. This is the spot that you've been constantly putting pellets out on, isn't it?
I have. I've done probably, looking at it, about 7 or 8k a pellet over the top now, maybe a bit more, maybe 10. Just constant every about 20 minutes. Again, watching the match anglers, you know, I've talked to you about that before. You know, they're constant baiting, and just about every half an hour I'm putting about 8 pouches of pellet out, and I think that they most certainly in here with them being fed so much pellet that they are literally coming to the sound of pellet, and so we're just keeping it going in.
Well, there we go. For those that don't know the rules, the fish has to be more than £5 for it to count to the score. These guys are currently in second. The difference between first and second, 1 ounce. If that's £4, 15 ounces, it doesn't count. If it's £5 or more, it puts them back into pole position. Let's get it out and find out what it weighs. The fish goes in.
Please, sweetheart.
He's a little one. Chris gives him a kiss. Not the first old trout he's given a kiss to, I dare say, but let's have a look. Is it going to go £5? Is it going to go £5? It's close, it's close, it's close. It's over £5, so that means it will count.
I've never been so happy catching a £6 fish.
Scalesman, give us an official reading. It looks £6 exactly.
£6.1.
£6, 1 ounces. So there we have it, £6, 1 ounces. It's agreed by the runner. That puts Rivers and Bones into the lead by £6. Back into the lead indeed for Rivers and Holmes, and with the fish now getting used to pressure, they were starting to feed all around the pond. Snowdon and Sainty were on a charge, wanting their early top slot back, but it was Rivers and Holmes who were sitting pretty. Holmes having landed a new personal best biggest fish, a great big 37-pound mirror carp that put them further out in front. A great battle was now starting to develop. Peg 17 now, Snowdon and Sainty. Unfortunately lost a fish approximately 10 minutes ago. Got the rod straight back out again and are back into action more or less straight away, and we've seen this story being repeated a number of times throughout the course of the event so far, that a fish is caught and very shortly afterwards another fish is caught from a similar sort of area. And once again, talking about stories that are repeated, there is a big ball of weed, there's a fish which looks to be a reasonable fish just to the right hand side of it. Looking round, that one is clear of the weed now and it's ready to rock and roll. And we'll stay with you on this ball of weed. It's not as big as we originally thought it was, but nevertheless it's a decent fish. And we know now the fish is in the net with a ball of weed. That is successfully landed. Well done, Mr. Sainty. Well done, Mr. Snowden. Big size of relief there from Adam. Proving to be an exciting last half of this tournament now. Things are really hotting up down here at Wraysbury. So here we have it. We thought it was significantly bigger in the water. It isn't, but nevertheless it is big enough to rocket them from 4th place up into 2nd place on the leaderboard. It was £12, 14 ounces. Every single ounce of that valuable in this tournament, which is proving to be incredibly close and incredibly exciting. A flurry of activity through the afternoon saw some teams land fish, others try their hardest, and by dusk it was Rivers and Holmes who was still at the top with 5 fish for £90 1 ounces against Sainty and Snowden's 51.12 3 fish catch. Gary Baldwin and Gary Hodges knocked Charrington off the final podium slot with 3 fish for £49.12. Elsewhere, 5 other teams are on the board hoping for a productive night. Darkness now well and truly with us, and our report is coming a little bit later than usual because it's been quite a hectic late spell this afternoon. Pooley, early afternoon, a little bit slow. Late afternoon, pretty hectic.
Yeah, a little flurry of fish from all over the pond. Less fish lost as if they were feeding confidently. Everybody started to get them in.
Yeah.
Top by Bones' 37.
Absolutely, and what a fish that is. It's a personal best for him, but you know, a great creature. One of the fish that's been here quite a while as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And they had one of the smallest fish to put them back into the lead, and that great big fish to extend their lead at the top. Not safe yet though, are they?
No, they pushed their lead out to just over £40, but Snowden and Sainty not giving up yet. They've got plenty of fish in front of them. Lost a fish, but then seconds later had a second take, made the most of it, and then had another one, bagged 2 doubles. They're right in it.
Yeah, absolutely. In this bottom bank down here, we saw that the guys next door, Gary and Gary, in the morning, they had quite a spell of activity as well. So they'll be looking forward to a good bit of action first thing in the morning. Elsewhere around the pond, fish coming out all over the place now. There isn't really a bank to call as being the best one.
And one other thing is that the weather's better now. Conditions have improved today. We've had a nice breeze. We've got an overcast night at the moment, and that's always better for a bite or two, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, there we have it. It's going to be very exciting. Obviously, we can't tell you exactly what's going on through the course of darkness because we can't see it ourselves, but we will be back in the morning to report on the night's ongoings. As the sun rises over Wraysbury for the final time in this tournament, we wake up once again to drama. Peg 17 now, Phil Sainty, Adam Snowden. Boat in place at the moment, and we've just seen Phil's rod tip knock there, which means that the fish is definitely still on. All fish, of course, crucial. This one particularly so. These boys are currently lying in second place. Neil Rivers and Chris Holmes catching one fish through the night last night, moving up from £90 to £103. Guys there just looking through a big ball of weed that's towards the front of the boat. We can see them sifting through it. Sainty and Snowden second place with £51 12 ounces, so only half the weight, but actually only £50 to catch. You can probably hear a passing plane. We say it's passing, it is directly overhead. This end of the lake is right underneath the flight path. And early in the morning down here, the first planes to come in are the long haul big birds coming in from fantastic places all over the world, but all eyes at the moment are not there. They are here at Wraysbury looking to find out whether or not this fish in Peg 17 is coming in. And it's still on. Phil pumping in. Yes, it's still a little one was the call there. A bit of a from the boys, but you know what? It's a fish, and if it comes in, it's going to be extra weight on their scoreboard. They've got £52 to make up. £52, and if this is just £5, that means it's 47. That's 2 fish potentially. Phil's just going to give it a little bit more side pressure on the left-hand side. He's done that. It's out. It's not in the snag. It's directly under the rods at the moment. Oh! A little bit of Saturday night fever there from Phil as he's had a rock around the roots. And it's in the net. That's very impressive, I must say, gentlemen. A little dance manoeuvre as well at the end. Well, there she is on the scales now, looking a little bit bigger than originally expected. The lads weren't sure whether that was going to make double figures. The scale dial's just gone round a bit further than that. £11, 13 ounces.
13 ounces, that one. Gents. Thank you.
Boys.
Thank you.
We've had bites off of all rods. Like I said, we've got one more little thing up our sleeve if we have to push further down to where we've been seeing them, we will. But again, it just comes to fish safety, and that is really weedy out there.
We've worked really hard this year. We've had a great year in the match scene, and you know it does mean everything. The title of British champs would be awesome. To say British champs, I know there's a lot of money and things involved, but more than anything, it's always been about the title. You know, can we get there? We'll wait and see, I suppose. Yeah, it means everything really. It's just, you know, you want something so bad, and you know, in the last minutes you never, you know, you think, oh, we've got a bit of a lead, but you know, oh, this could happen, that could happen. It's all running through your head all the time, running through your head. What could happen? They could get this, they could get that. We've got to stop catching, they've got to catch. And there's just so many things going through your head all the time that it's a nightmare.
Yeah, we've lost fish in that as well, mate. You know what I mean? You can just, it's hard, you know. Just, you play it as like it's your first ever caught fish. So.
Yeah. The positive is, of course, that at the moment everybody's got to catch you. So, you know, you sit at the top of the pile and it's very, very nerve-wracking because you think you're going to get caught, but actually everyone else is thinking we've got to catch you.
Yeah.
And Sainty and Snowden at the moment will be desperately pulling out all the stops. Yeah. It's difficult for you guys as well because you've already pulled out the stops, and you know there isn't a lot more you can do other than sit and wait.
That's right. Yeah, I think the trick is not to do anything stupid. Just carry on with what we were doing. It's worked. There's still fish in the area, and just keep going with what we were doing. Don't do anything silly like start moving things or putting far too much bait in or anything like that. Just stick to what we were doing, and you know what will be will be.
Just chatting to the boys there, and The left-hand rod that they've worked so perfectly all the way through this tournament has just rattled off. And that's the thing with this fishing lark, you just never know when they're going to come. Neil crouching down there. Oh, it's a good fish. That's a good fish. It's in the net. That could be the one that makes the difference. That is an incredible creature. And that now gives them the comfort cushion back that they had before. You can see the relief on Chris's face there. It's heads down. That makes a big, big difference now. These boys are going to be feeling now that fish will be a bit more of a nerve settler. They had a bit of a comfort blanket. The comfort blanket was taken away this morning. 2 fish have been caught by Sagenty and Snowden. Rivers and Holmes have caught nothing at all. And then, boom.
It's very back and forth at the moment, nervous times.
Is it going to be down to fish size or is it going to be numbers now?
Fish size. I think if we could get a big one of the bigger ones that's in here, it certainly gives you an advantage, doesn't it? Because the last few we've had have all been sort of 12 poundish, haven't they? Yeah. But if you nick one of those bigger ones out, like a upper 30 or a 40 or something, it's like 3 of the small ones and it puts you right back in there.
Well, there is still time.
Certainly is, Rob. Fingers crossed.
Everything crossed.
Well, gentlemen, the time is nigh.
I'm trying not to.
15. 15 seconds, gents. Let's have it. Any minute now, these boys will be crowned. There we go. What can we say? Everybody is emotional. Mr. Green and the runner comes in. Oh, everyone's choking back the tears now, me included. Look at that. This, for anybody watching, is what fishing does to grown men. There we go. Chris, Neil, Mr. Grinning, come back, equally part of the team. Well done, fellas. Guys, we can see the emotion. It means a lot, doesn't it? It means a lot. I'll come to you first. They can have a couple of minutes. What's it like serving with the boys?
It's been brilliant. We've had a laugh. Great fishing, great fun. It's been an amazing weekend, isn't it, lads?
Yeah. All the way through this tournament, boys, all the way through it, you've absolutely smashed it to pieces. Orchard Place Farm out the park.
That was
completely out the park.
Yeah, new lake record.
That was our first one.
Couple of two new PBs, mate. Yeah, good weekend that.
So we've got PBs, we've got Wraysbury, we've got out the park on the first one. On the second one, Barston didn't just win the section, absolutely smashed the section. Wraysbury, pretty tough venue.
Yeah.
Big old fish out of there, new personal best, smashed it as well. You've been involved in the BCAC for a long, long time, but this is actually the first time you fished it.
It is, yeah.
Together it is, mate, yeah. Together, first time out, and we got here and...
We had a good draw, didn't we? Hey? It means a lot to get that, doesn't it? Not only our first year, but yeah, we got on to win it, which is, yeah, it's very pleasing, very, very pleasing.
And on to the presentation in reverse order. In third place, with 3 fish for £49.12, Gary Baldwin and Gary Hodges. Okay guys, moving on to second place then with 6 fish for £87 9 ounces. Phil Sainty and Adam Snowden. Don't drop them. Last but by no means least, incredibly popular winners. Totally chuffed myself that these guys pulled out such a performance to bag 8 fish for £132 14 ounces, taking with them a cheque for £17,500. Chris Holmes and Neil Rivers, our 2014 champions.
Well, there we go. It's been an absolutely fantastic event down here at Wraysbury. We've had a brilliant weekend. All of these guys worthy winners. There's only one more thing to do. That is 3, 2, 1. Off you go, chaps. Ladies and gentlemen, the champions.